odds? It's Jeremy Poole here. I'm the CEO of Real Estate Social and the host of The Moment. Now, what you're doing right now is absolutely insignificant in comparison to what you could be doing with me January 26th at the Historic Theater downtown Seattle. Now, if I look familiar to you, it's probably because you've seen my talk show, The Moment. But what you don't know is that we are releasing for the very first time The Moment live experience, you guys. It's gonna be an all-day event. It's gonna be hosted by Cody Gibson, keynote by Tony Giordano. We're gonna have TED Talks by guys like Monty Burris from Toronto, Canada, Thatch Wynn, so much more. We're gonna be interviewing fantastic people like Stacey Jones, Jason Gosser, and so much more. The names go on and on, guys. Here's the deal. If you're in real estate, if you're thinking about going to real estate, this is an absolute must-attend event. It's The Moment Live, January 26th. You don't wanna miss it. I don't want you to miss it, so we'll see you there. Welcome to the show. My name is Jeremy Poole and I'm the host of The Moment on Real Estate Social, where we explore and celebrate the necessary transformational process one must go through to achieve a high level of success in the real estate industry. Today we have the great pleasure of hanging out with Tyler McKenzie. He is the owner and designated broker of the West Seattle John L. Scott. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Jeremy, it's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. I've been waiting for this one for quite some time. You folks can't see it, but we're in probably one of the most beautiful real estate offices I've ever been into, so this is great. Tyler, as you know, the show's called The Moment. What would you characterize or consider as being your defining moment that has allowed you to achieve such a high level of success in real estate year after year?
Well, before I answer that question, I want to say this is the best looking office in Seattle.
It's really nice.
You know, I've been thinking about the answer to that question in part because I've seen some of your other interviews, and frankly, I'm older than a good number of your interviewees, and so I probably have more moments to think about.
Sure.
I'm also kind of a mutt. I was born in the States, but I was raised in Europe. I was born in a family where I had a famous grandfather, and that sort of colored some of the ways that I looked at the world, and it also afforded me the opportunity to meet a lot of very famous people. And in that process, it also afforded me the opportunity to learn about what made them tick, sometimes for the wrong reasons, but largely for the right reasons. So I'm sort of wrapping all of that into thinking about what my answers might be. One of the first moments in my life that really resonates for me was as a high school student in Ireland, where I was going to school. And I was taking a class that was called Business Organization. And in my family, everybody in my family was an artist, with the exception of me.
That's cool.
So I'm sort of the black sheep of the family because I like business.
Which is probably why his office is covered in beautiful art.
He said, well, my dad was a gallery owner and a successful artist, so yes, that's true. But in any event, I was in this class with this teacher, and I don't know whether he had a resentment because I was the Yank in the Irish school, but there was something going on that I was never really clear on. Yeah. He didn't like me. And our school enrolled every year in a competition that was nationwide that was about building an imaginary company and making it successful. And I remember him sitting down and saying, of all of the people who've ever embarked on this, you're the person who is going to be least successful in this competition.
The least? The
least successful. And yeah, as you might imagine, that just gave me a burr.
Yeah.
So as it turned out, long story short, we actually had the most successful outcome of our school and came in third in the country, and we had a small school. So that was one of those turning points for me where it was like, you know what, I don't need people to tell me what I'm not capable of. I want people to tell me what I am capable of.
Right.
And that just, I was imbued with that. And then, you know, in those years that I was working in Ireland or studying in Ireland, you know, I was a full-time barman at the age of 15. I had a really strong work ethic from the get-go. Yeah. And then ultimately I got my training in hotel business and administration, and I came back to the States in my early 20s and ended up working in the entertainment business. And then in that part of my career, yeah, it's a brutal business, and you learn how to take your knocks and develop a thick skin. Yeah. And you know, you're working 80 hours a week for $200, and you've got a line of 1,000 people behind you who are going to do it for 100 because they want to get in. And so you kind of learn how to get edgy and competitive, and so that was a really interesting career arc for me that set me up, I think, for real estate. Another turning point, frankly, was I was working in software publishing here in Seattle. I had lived here for a few years by that point, and I was part of a mass corporate layoff. And that was the time that I was confronted with the need to do something new and different and secure. And ironically, I turned to real estate. I actually was in the middle of a divorce, and I was dating my now wife and business partner, and her father had been very successful in real estate, also in Washington, and so he was inspiring. And that was a turning point because I took the leap and I got into real estate. Yeah. And I was actually working with one of our competitors here in West Seattle down the street, and had a great 10-year run building my business, and ultimately decided to get involved in the Realtor Association. I know we'll be talking about that.
Sure.
And that led to my going to our brand now, to John O. Scott, which in turn led to this opportunity to buy the company. And here we are. And the thing is, at least in my experience, while there are impactful moments in a person's life, it's really how those dominoes fall.
Absolutely.
And recognizing that one moment leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next. And here we land.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Love that. So Tyler, you were just nominated as the most innovative agent.
I'm not sure how to respond to that.
What opportunities do you see? Well, number one, first question is, why do you think that is? What are you doing so differently?
I was surprised to get that nomination, not because I don't, think I work hard. I think that came out of the product of, I'm a guest mentor for a national business coach by the name of Bernice Ross.
Okay.
So she invites me on to her, she does podcasts, and she invites me on a few times a year to speak. And we talk about what it takes to be successful in this business. Yeah. And, I think being innovative is about being open to change.
Sure.
And open to growth, and not being set in your ways, and understanding that in this business there's a lot of noise.
A lot of noise.
A lot of talk about disruption, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, being innovative means being human.
Yes.
And making a connection with your clients, and in our case with our clients and our brokers, our team members here, and just maintaining that that connection.
I agree. I think that what I see so differently about you and about your office and about your brokerage is that from the moment I met you, your personality, the kind of person you are, and the energy you put off matches your office. So many offices I go into, they're beautiful as well. They're just beautiful in a different way. And it's obvious that you and your partner wanted this beautiful place to reflect who you guys are.
Absolutely.
And really establish that culture. Not only that, but being in West Seattle on this particular street, it just fits really well.
Well, thank you for that. It's that sort of goes back to the whole package too. And what do you bring to your business, and what do you bring to your life? My dad was a successful gallery owner artist in Los Angeles, so I grew up in a gallery.
Sure.
I was poking myself in the eye with paintbrushes when I was a kid, which is probably why I'm not a painter. And so and it was in West Hollywood, which was a neighborhood not unlike West Seattle. And so there was this vibe that I grew up with as a kid that was meaningful to me. Yeah. Was comforting, and we agreed that we could accomplish that with this space. But we also wanted this space to celebrate our brand, John O. Scott. It's an old building. John O. Scott's been around since 1931. We're 86 years. 86 years into it, and so we wanted to get that sense of history, but we also wanted to make sure this was a 21st century space.
Love it.
So we put 3 miles of low voltage cable behind the walls. We make sure that when anybody walks in here, they're plugged in and they're set up and they're ready to go.
Yeah. So more on the subject of you being the most innovative agent, what can we expect from you that we haven't seen in 2017? What can we expect from you in 2018?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm not sure I know the answer to that. More?
Just more excellence? Just more great stuff?
Yeah, I am committed to this profession, and I'm committed to the mission of real estate in our community. I'm committed to the mission of real estate for our team members here, and we're certainly committed to success. So we're about being excellent.
Great.
And that is, people talk about being perfectionists, right?
Sure.
Well, that's a subjective statement, but we're constantly on the mission to ensure that we're providing the best service, we're taking care of everybody to the utmost of our ability, and we're staying current.
Right.
And we're actually forward-looking, and we're really,
I think so,
dialed into the future rather than worrying about being stuck in the present and the past.
Well, you're obviously a leader here in this office. You're obviously a leader in this community, in the state, but also in the country. Real estate is one of the sexiest, hottest jobs right now, right? There's so many people looking to this industry. They're looking to jump in. They're on Facebook. They're on Instagram. And I think a lot of people kind of glamorize real estate, not realizing how hard it is and how much of a grind it is. What do you think sets apart a good agent from a great agent?
Right. Well, first off, I think it's awesome that this is considered a glamorous career now.
Sure.
I can tell you that when I got into real estate, that was not always the case. So, I got into real estate in 2001. I can tell you my personal bias and my personal fear when I got into real estate was that it wasn't a respectable industry.
I've heard that.
Because I didn't know it well enough.
Sure.
And I didn't understand it well enough, and I didn't understand the value proposition well enough when I first got in. I knew it was something that I wanted to do and that it would afford me an opportunity to have a life that I wanted for myself and my family, but I wasn't sure where we sort of ranked in the world of professionals and in terms of respectability. It was a concern. Having said that, I soon figured out that it's the best profession on the planet. And I love it.
That's a big, bold statement. Why is that?
You know what? We preserve the American dream.
Okay.
And we are in my view, the foot soldiers in ensuring that communities are healthy, that people are happy.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of data that demonstrates that homeowners and neighborhoods where there is a large percentage of home ownership are more stable because people are invested in those communities.
Yes.
And we're the foot soldiers in that process.
Okay.
Furthermore, we're responsible for buyers who are making the biggest financial decision of their lives, and for sellers who are trying to protect their retirement, most likely.
Phenomenal.
So these are big ticket items that we're responsible for.
Absolutely.
So what does that mean? In order to be, I think to be an excellent agent in this world, you have to be committed to the outcome of really protecting your client's interests first and foremost.
First and foremost.
Good agents, in my experience, tend to be more about what's in it for them than what's in it for us.
Right. Right.
And the most successful agents, and this is one of the reasons that I got involved in Realtor leadership, are the ones who see that there is a bigger picture. That it's not just about closing the transaction and that you're not done with your client when you get your paycheck.
Right.
It's about being engaged in your community. What few people understand about realtors is that realtors are usually the people who go out in the middle of a disaster and start cleaning up streets.
Very true.
Realtors are the ones who take out the chainsaws and get houses off of people's, trees off of people's houses.
Right.
Those are big picture community commitments that the best make.
I agree.
And the best realtors are the ones who understand that any system is a good system as long as you follow it and you're committed to it. The best realtors understand that we're in a transactionally based business, and that if you understand the metrics that are behind that, and if you understand how to run a business, then you're going to be successful.
I think that's probably the biggest difference that I see. I'm obviously not on that side of the business, after interviewed countless people, some more successful than others, but it's very clear that some individuals view their role and view what they're doing as a business. They treat it as such. They will market it as such. They will think of it as such and then operate accordingly. So I agree.
Well, you're in business for yourself. You're an independent contractor.
Yes.
Or in this case, we're running a brokerage, but
Sure.
you know, the basics are still the same.
Yeah.
We're now just in the business of real estate brokers rather than real estate sales.
Right.
But the principles are identical. And you know, I always counsel our team members here that if you don't have a business plan, for instance, then you don't have a roadmap to the outcome that you want.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about if you're flying from LA to and you want to fly to New York, and you miscalibrate your mapping, you're going to end up in Boston.
Sure.
Right? So what use is that to you if you wanted to get to New York?
Yeah.
You might be closer to your goal, but you're not hitting your goal. So we're about encouraging the best of our brokers, all of our brokers, to calibrate their businesses so that they hit their targets.
Perfect. Perfect.
And we're lucky. In this company, we have some really high performers who do that.
Yeah.
And statistically, we're ahead of the curve. We love that.
Fantastic, fantastic. So on the subject of leadership, and as owner and designated broker of this fantastic office, what's your approach to coaching new agents?
I love hiring new agents.
You do?
I
Okay.
do. So John L. Scott is our mission is to hire successful brokers or agents, but that doesn't preclude us from hiring new agents. Because our duty is to help them become successful and give them the tools.
Right.
So that is about coaching. This is a fairly small boutique office. We're growing. Since the day we bought it, we've grown by 60%. And I think one of the reasons that we've been successful in that regard is that I've made a personal commitment to be there for our team members, one-on-one, as much as they need it. I'm all in.
That's fantastic.
And I can't say that all brokers are.
No, I think that's probably on that side of it in terms of brokers and leadership, that's probably the biggest difference is that it seems, especially also on my side where I come from, which is on the lending side, it's kind of a sink or swim business. And there's a lot you have to learn. There's a big learning curve. And unless you have somebody to really place their arm around you and show you the ropes and walk you through some stuff, help you understand what you're good at and have you focus on doing more of those things and identifying the things that you're not so good at and say, hey, perhaps we should delegate those things.
Right.
It's just a tough business, and it's really important to have someone like yourself who's been there and who has been successful to walk you through it.
You know, this business it'll beat you up.
It'll beat you up, yeah.
You know, I can't think of another white-collar profession where we provide the level of counsel that we provide for free.
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah.
You know, people don't understand that. Yes, we might get a nice paycheck at some point in our relationship with our transactions, but I know with my clients, I close a deal, I'm still giving them counsel 5 years later, you know, and I'm not charging for that.
Right.
We just did a career night here actually this week, and the common theme with the people who showed up was that they're looking for support. And I forget sometimes as the office leader what I know. Because I know so much. I've been doing it for a long time, and so I forget what it's like to know nothing.
Right.
And it's important when you are leading brokers that you remember that they don't necessarily know what you know, and that you have to be available to help them address those fears.
Right.
And
fears.
And fear is a big part. You know, fear is actually goes back to one of those things that you were asking me about earlier about the good versus the best. We're all fearful in our businesses.
Every day.
You know, you look at the downturn and the impact that had on the industry. I was one of the few people in the office who showed up and said, I'm going to work. You know, we had 80 agents in our office at that time, at the other office where I was selling, and 5 of us showed up. And so it's that commitment to success. It's that commitment to knowing that, you know, you've got to be the person here when that person needs to buy or sell a house. And that your duty is to help them have the best outcome possible. And my job is to support our team members in that process, in that role.
Well, that gives me a fantastic segue into this next question. You mentioned a couple times now that you're older than the other folks that we've had on the show. That means that you've been through several market shifts.
Mm-hmm.
What is your mindset towards dealing with adversity?
You know, people always need to buy and sell houses.
People need always.
And you know, when, as I just said, when I was working in another office, and most of our fellow agents were in shock and sticking their heads in the ground. I remember, that's another moment. I remember waking up one morning and thinking, you know, people need to buy and sell houses, and I'm going to be the guy there to help them. And actually, as a result of that, I created my luck. I went to work.
You created your luck. That's a big one right there.
Absolutely. You know, you create your luck by working systems and by showing up.
Yep.
You never know where the opportunity is coming from, but I'll give you an example. So in the downturn, I showed up, and my manager, recognizing that I was showing up for work, introduced me to somebody who had an opportunity down here in West Seattle. He was up in the Everett area.
Yeah.
Turns out he was specializing in short sales, needed somebody to help for the Seattle market. We met with a client who had 17 houses he needed to sell. That put my sign in everybody's front yard when nobody else was listing, and I wasn't worried about.
That'll change things.
Yeah, you know, now all of a sudden with short sales, I could project my income for the next 6 months.
Sure.
Because I knew it was going to take 6 months to close, but I also knew that we had a 95% closing record.
Wow.
So I could rely on that, that outcome, because I had the data, I had the track record in the sales that he and I put together to know that we were going to be successful, and that kept our lights on during the recession. So, you know, if I have one piece of advice to any new agent or seasoned agent, it's, you know, show up, do the work, create your luck, and trust the results, because the results will come.
Phenomenal. So on the subject of new agents and even seasoned agents that perhaps haven't really reached the level of success that they want, what's the biggest mistake that you see them making?
Not getting out of their own ways.
Okay.
And in a sort of an open-ended statement, but we talked a little bit about fear before. One of the things that I see, there are a couple of things that I see that are pretty common. The first is the agent, and I'm guilty of this because when I first got into business, I was like this. It's like, I need my desk to be just so. I need all of my tools in place so that when that phone rings, I'm ready to go to work. The problem is I'm not making the phone ring.
Sure.
So I talked earlier about my famous grandfather, and he was Fred Astaire. And you know, I grew up knowing that the outcome of his, you know, what ended up on the big screen with him was not just a product of his physical genius, but it was really the product of hard work.
Yes. Yes.
You know, he didn't train, he didn't go to a gym, but when he danced for 12 hours a day and rehearsed for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, however long it took, so that when that camera rolled the first time, it was going to be perfect.
Magical.
So, you know, that results, you don't get that outcome without putting that kind of work into it. And so when I look at new agents, that's one of the things that I want to help them be successful doing is, you know, we like to organize our desks and sort of put ourselves in the position that when the phone rings, we're ready to go.
Right.
And I want to see some element of that. I want the business to be set up, but I don't want that to be something that paralyzes them and they stop. They're not trying to go out and actually make the phone ring.
Absolutely.
Right?
One of my favorite quotes, and this ties in perfectly, is that you got to get in the habit of doing the hard things because then your life will be easy. If you're in the habit of doing easy things, your life will be hard. In this business, in any business, and I've been involved in many, is that I think the individuals that really do extremely well, like yourself, you identify what needs to get done, regardless of how hard it is or if it's scary. And often the hard stuff is scary. You go out and you do it anyways.
You do the work.
You do the work, and if you fall down, you pick yourself up and you do it again, regardless of who's watching, or perhaps people are laughing, but it doesn't matter. But over time, once it does matter, you're smacking that ball over the fence, and that's all anybody remembers.
When you're in real estate, you're in business for yourself.
For yourself.
And you are your best friend or your worst enemy.
Right.
And you're accountable only to yourself as well. And you know, I see new agents and seasoned agents succumb to their fear. You know, maybe I had an amazing year last year, and this next year I'm not getting the numbers that I think I should be getting. Right. And rather than analyzing my business and understanding what's changed, you know, for instance, the market shifted. There's less inventory. There's something that's affected your productivity. Right. You just stay afraid. Right. And you know, for me, fear is something that motivates me to move forward. I move through it. I don't let it paralyze me. I embrace it.
Yes.
And I use it to my advantage. I mean, buying a company is a scary thing.
I bet, yeah.
And we just said, okay, yeah, we're scared, but we're going to do it anyway because it's what we should be doing.
It's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
You use it and it actually propels you forward.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Well, Tyler, not only were you nominated as the most innovative agent, you were also honored to be the Realtor of the Year.
Yes, I was. Thank you.
Why is that? Where's all this coming from?
That came as a big surprise. So, Realtor of the Year for our local association, the state and the national association is obviously a great honor. I was president of Seattle King County Realtors in 2015, and my peers elected to award me the honor of being Realtor of the Year at the local association level in 2016. And so that put me in the pool for the state. And you know, some states it's an anointment. If you've served, for instance, in one of the larger states as its president, you're going to essentially be anointed as Realtor of the Year. In our state, you have to earn it. And let me rephrase that. Everybody's earning it, but in our state, you go into the pool of all of the recipients across the state, and then you were selected based on the contribution that you've made to your association. So, Realtor of the Year is not about sales. It's not about, you know, what's in it for me. Realtor of the Year is really about stepping up and saying what's in it for you. And by you, I mean the members.
Sure.
You know, our association, as I mentioned before, is, you know, we're the foot soldiers to protecting the American dream, and as such, we're also great advocates. Yeah. So we're in the state houses, we're in the local municipalities. There are 39 municipalities in King County alone, and we're at each and every doorstep saying, hands off our business and protect our clients. Right. Protect property rights. And so I've just been very, very active in that process. I'm an ombudsman for the state of Washington. I'm a professional standards chair. So I'm committed to protecting the profession and ensuring that people perform at the highest levels they're able to. And I do that because I believe that, again, we're protecting the American dream, and if I can be part of that, boom.
Boom.
I'm in. I'm in.
Well, Tyler, you are the man. Thank you so much for your time today. I really
pleasure.
appreciate you inviting us into your office.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed this interview. And thank you for watching. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you very much. This was a pleasure.
Hey guys, it's Jeremy Poole here. I'm the CEO of Real Estate Social and the host of The Moment. Now, what you're doing right now is absolutely insignificant in comparison to what you could be doing with me January 26th at the Historic Theater downtown Seattle. Now, if I look familiar to you, it's probably because you've seen my talk show, The Moment. But what you don't know is that we are releasing for the very first time the Moment Live experience, you guys. It's gonna be an all-day event. It's gonna be hosted by Cody Gibson, keynote by Tony Giordano. We're gonna have TED Talks by guys like Monty Burrs from Toronto, Canada, Thatch Wynn, so much more. We're gonna be interviewing fantastic people like Stacey Jones, Jason Gosser, and so much more. The names go on and on, guys. Here's the deal. If you're in real estate, if you're thinking about going to real estate, this is an absolute must-attend event. It's The Moment Live, January 26th. You don't want to miss it. I don't want you to miss it, so we'll see you there.